Okay, so I have got some questions here. The first one is a question that asks you to find the dimensions of a rectangle. So what you are seeing in this particular question, you have a diagonal given to you, then you have one side given to you in terms of x. So the idea is perhaps that you work with what you know. You know that the perimeter of any rectangle is twice the length plus twice the width. So we do know that 68 is the perimeter because it's given to us, and we also know that the one distance will be 2y. So I can just actually decide that this distance here should be y, and then the other one should be 2x. Okay, so the idea is, how do we write this distance in terms of x using an x? All right, so what you're going to do here is you're going to say 68 minus 2x is equal to 2y. So in turn, this is going to give you 34 minus x is equal to y. That is if you are dividing throughout by 2. So the distance then here is given as nothing but 34 minus x. So we know that is what the distance is, and you know this is a right angle triangle, and 26 is the hypotenuse. And if 26 is the hypotenuse, then you're going to have that is going to be the longest side. Right, so we can actually therefore create or work with Pythagoras theory, which says that 26 squared should equal to the 34 minus x all squared plus x squared. So this equation is going to allow us to find the dimensions. So this is going to be 676. And when you multiply out this bracket, remember it's the same bracket times the same bracket. So here you have got 34 minus x. Here you got 34 minus x. Right, so from here, it just means that you have to do a little bit of work. 34 times 34, well, that is going to be nothing but 1156. And then 34 times x, negative x is negative 34. X and negative x times that is again another 34. X and negative times negative, very careful, give you a positive x squared. And then you bring down the other one that's there. Alright, so on the right hand side, let me just clear up what I have so far. So I have now 2x squares minus 68x plus 1156. Okay, 1156. Right, so this is what I have so far. This is where I am. So I just have to clean up this equation. So maybe I can just create a nice little space. So I have got 2x squared minus 68x plus 1156. And then you will obviously agree with me that you are going to subtract 676. And then obviously you agree with me that that should equal to 0. So you get 2x squared minus 68x plus 480 should give you equal to 0. And well, this equation you don't have to grab, and you can definitely divide by 2. So if x squared minus 34x plus 240 is equal to 0. So again, this equation would factorize. Okay, and I hope you're still familiar with the method of factorization. That's a positive, so those two will be negative. Number is 10 and 24. All right, you can go ahead and use the quadratic equation formula or whatever you are happy with. So if you multiply two numbers and the product is equal to 0, it implies that one of them should equal to 0. So the first answer then is x is equal to 10, or x equals to, second answer, 24. So these will therefore be the dimensions. The dimensions of the rectangle will have the length would be 24, Well, if they say whatever centimeter, then you say that. And the width will be 10 units. Okay, so this is the solution to that particular question. So it becomes a quadratic equation, and hopefully you see where everything goes from that point onwards. Okay, so your answers therefore will be in centimeters. Let's look at the next one that we have. So we have got a trapezium. So I hope you remember that the formula to calculate the area of a trapezium is half the sum of the parallel sides multiplied by the height. So when you look at this particular trapezium, then you know that the area is given to us as 400 square centimeters. So I'm just going to say that that 400 will equal to the sum of the parallel sides, which is 13x, plus. Now, when you look at this distance here, obviously it's going to give you nothing but 27x. So that plus 27x. And then you're going to multiply that by the height. And the height is this distance here, which is 5x. All of this will be divided by 2. So you substitute in the formula, right? And on top you're going to have 40x, and that should be multiplied by 5x equals to 400 multiplied by 2. Okay, so this is 200x squared is equal to 800. Well, from this point onwards, you can actually go ahead and isolate. You can say x squared equals to 800 divided by 200. Then x squared equals to 4. So x is going to equal to plus or minus 2. But now, what we are looking at is we are asked to find the height of the trapezium. So the distance can't be negative. So I'm not going to then use the minus 2. So the height of the trapezium, which is originally 5x, is going to be now 5 times 2. I have to use the positive value here. And that gives me 10. And let me just make sure that the units are in centimeters. Okay, we just have to compare and see what the question is. So it's 10 centimeters, therefore. So you can have a look, and then you can definitely see how I look at this particular problem. So you have got the trapezium, and you have the area, and you've got distances given to you in terms of x. Use the formula to calculate the area of a trapezium, and this formula here is the one that will allow you substitute correctly into the formula, and then you solve for x. And once you have x, you have to be now smart in order to choose the right value that you are going to substitute in there, and then you find the height to be 10 centimeters. Right, so there is another one, and it's the third one here. It says a rectangular swimming pool. All right, so when you look at this rectangular swimming pool, and what is important is that this distance here is also x. This distance here is also x. So is that distance also x. So if I look at the outside, this distance here, this distance will therefore be, if you look at this particular distance of x and that particular distance x, so it will be 20 plus 2x. That will be the distance on the outside. Also then, the distance here on the outside is going to be 16 plus 2x. I hope you get that. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the outside dimensions, which is the 20 plus 2x, and we're going to multiply to find the area of that. All right, and we're then going to subtract with the dimensions that are inside, and we know that it should give us 100. So let that equal to 100. Okay, just make sure that you get that when you are reading the question. And something else, whatever this equation will be, if it is quadratic, we'll have to obviously use maybe another method to find the answer, because factorization is not going to work there. Okay, so from here on, I suggest that you just work your magic and you use your calculator. So still remember that you must multiply first. So that's going to give you 320. And then when you multiply 20 times 2x, that's going to give you 40x. When you multiply this, that's going to give you 32x. And the 2x times 2x, that's going to give you 4x squared. And you're supposed to subtract this from 320. That should give you 100. Okay, so let's just make that nice so it doesn't look so horrible the way it is. So this should give us 100. Okay, so this is 320 here, plus, if you add this one, you get 72x plus 4x squared minus 320 is equal to 100. So again, my 320s, they cancel. Eventually, I should be left with 4x squared plus 72x minus 100 equals to 0. That is if I bring that over. Okay, so once you are at this equation, you can actually divide by 4. So when you divide by 4, you get x squared, because 4 goes into 4, and 4 goes into 72, 18 times, minus 25. This gives you, this has to give you 0. So let's just clean that up again. Make it look a bit nice. So this is going to be equal to 0. All right. Now, this is a quadratic equation which we will not factorize because we have been told we are supposed to give the answer correct to 2 decimal places. So this is perhaps where you now use the quadratic equation formula, and I hope you still remember the quadratic equation formula. It's minus b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac, everything upon 2a. So it's very important then that you identify your values of a. Like in this case, our a is 1, our b is the coefficient here, our b is 18, and our value of c is going to be negative 25. So it's just a matter of you substituting correctly. So let's take it when it's positive, take the root, and square minus 4. So it's just about correct substitution into the formula. You must just be a bit careful here whenever you are dealing with the signs. So that's positive 18 rather. So that's going to be 18 there as well. So a is 1, and our value of c is nothing but negative 25. Okay, well, so you can go ahead and you can play with that. You should eventually arrive at, under that square root, to have 424. So x is going to equal to minus 18, okay, because this gives you 18. Let's say plus minus square root of 424 all over 2. So when you grab your calculator and you make sure that you punch in correctly, one answer will be approximately equal to 1.30, or another answer will be approximately equal to, that should be negative value, negative 19.30, because the question wants us to give it to 2 decimal places. Now, which one do we consider? Again, you have to make sure that you understand the question demands you to get your answer to 2 decimal places. So the answer therefore should be the correct one. Distance can't be negative. Therefore, our value is nothing but 1.30 meters correct to 2 decimal places. Okay, so that's what I have for you here today. Please pause the video again, make sure that you have seen how I calculate those missing values, and hopefully it has assisted you quite a bit in order for you to be able to solve these particular questions.